Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to HemingwayLand.com, your source for quality, affordable land in the state of New Mexico. It has been a while, people. It has been a hot minute since we have had land in McKinley County. That being said, we are back this week in a subdivision where we've had a lot of success in the past, the Box S Ranch subdivision. This one is very popular amongst our hunter clientele, particularly because it sits on the outskirts of the Cibola National Forest. That, of course, is just one of many things to like about this property, and I think you'll agree with me as we go through the video. So let's get to it, guys. This is, as we scroll past all the writing we did this week, reference number MKM-2856, located, as noted, in McKinley County in the northwestern part of the state in the Box S Ranch subdivision. This is a scooch more than 7 acres, 7.13 acres to be super precise. And as you saw up top here, this is priced at $19,000, which is actually quite affordable on a price per acre basis in this region. Blah, 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 blah. Down here, guys, we got GPS coordinates on our listing page, as we do with all of our listing pages. 4 corner points in the center. Click any one of them, and it will bring the property up on a map, and we will be able to explore this in greater depth. First, guys, let's go to map view. Let's pull back. Let's talk about where this is in the state. If you know nothing about New Mexico geography, you know the North Star up here, Albuquerque, north central part of the state. This property is just west of Albuquerque, roughly about 105 miles. Sitting here in nearby McKinley County. McKinley, of course, borders Arizona to its west. As you see, Google Maps backs me up on this, 105 miles roughly as the crow flies. Of course, as we like to point out, the I-40 is most of that drive, so you're going to be doing about 75, 80 miles an hour till you get out to Grants. And then taking the 53, and probably not doing much less speed-wise anyway till you get out to Ramah, and then working your way up to the subject property. So point being, it may be 100 plus miles, but you're likely going to be able to cover that in somewhere between an hour and 15 minutes, probably would be my guess. Whatever the case, guys, as we are fond of saying here, this McKinley County out here, much like its neighbor Cibola County, has more cows than people. That is our way of saying that there are plenty of great outdoor things to do, things in nature, if you are into that sort of thing. Some of the greatest hits out here in the region include Chaco Canyon, as well as we like to point out in these videos, the El Morro National Monument, number 1. Number 2, the ice caves in Bandera Volcano, over here. Number 3, the El Malpais National Monument and Conservation Area. Number 4, the Chain of Craters Wilderness Study Area. And, of course, we also have bodies of water out here for the fishermen. We have the Blue Water Lake State Park in McKinley County, and then we have the nearby Ramah Lake Reservoir here in Cibola County. This, of course, is very close to the subject property. Should also be noted, guys, we've got this giant splotch of green on the map, which is 300,000 acres of hunting. 300,000 acres of Cibola National Forest where you can go hunting. You could also go picnicking, camping, hiking, so on and so forth. Many trails to explore in this region. Additionally, a lot of critters to shoot. There are elk, mule deer, wild turkey. Those are the famous ones that haunt these woods. Of course, there are other ones too, I am sure. I will let you consult the Fish and Wildlife, Game, Wildlife, whatever website for more information about that. Whatever the case, as you can see, the subject property sits here just on the outskirts of the Cibola National Forest. Now, it should be noted, guys, that this property sits equidistant to Gallup up here, which is the county seat of McKinley County, as well as Grants, which is the county seat of Cibola County. Point being, here in nearby Ramah, you've got some grocery, a little bit of groceries, a little bit of supplies, things like that. But if you're looking to do a big run to a Home Depot or a Super Walmart, get a bunch of supplies for the week, something like that, you're going to be going into either Grants or Gallup, depending on which scenic drive you prefer to take. But point being, these are population centers. If you zoom in on either one of them, you're going to see this is obviously where a large concentration of the people who live out here are. You're going to find most every fast food restaurant has some kind of footprint out here, things like Walgreens, things like all the major banks, so on and so forth. Additionally, you've got hospitals, you've got airports in these nearby towns, etc. Anyway, let's get into talking about this specific property, guys. So, as noted, this sits in the Box S Ranch subdivision. Now, one thing I just want to point out to you, here on the map, you see this giant cutout area. This is not Box S. This is something called the Timberlake Ranch. Timberlake Ranch, you have to cross through to get to Box S. And I feel like these were either the same subdivision at one point in time, or they were created by the same developer. Probably the same developer. Whatever the case, this one right here is a little more built up. You'll see some more home sites out here. You will also note that this is a subdivision that has a lot more covenants and restrictions, and I would add some of them are stricter than what you find in Box S, quite a bit so. Anyway, as you get through this area, then you come up here to Box S Ranch Road. This is where you are officially within this subdivision. Now, the specific property sits right here off of Box S Ranch Road. It goes from here to the east, and basically that is the size and shape of the property. Now, of course, here on Google Maps, we don't have the plat overlay, so I'm going to direct your attention back to the listing page, where down here, as always, we have the helpful Google Earth image with the overlay right here, which gives you a sense of the size, shape, location, general footprint of the property. Additionally, we have a plat map here to back up our assertions that that is what the property is shaped like. So as you don't think we are just drawing geometric shapes at random on a map. No, in fact, no, that is the size, shape, location of the property. So a couple things, guys. Number one, sits here off of Box S Ranch Road, nearest power. You will notice that you have home sites here and here and here and here and here all across the street. There's a couple others as well. All of these have power going to them. There are power lines running along Box S on this side of the street, not on this side of the street. And as we zoom in here, you will see that the closest ones to the subject property, you've got power lines right here and you've got some over here. If you follow all these back to the houses, you're going to see the paths that they all take. They all kind of basically run alongside Box S Ranch Road. So point is, nearest power is not on the subject property, but it's basically right across the street from the subject property, so not bad. That's the first thing I want to point out. Second thing I want to point out, guys, if we hit the control key and we wiggle the mouse, you will get a better sense of the sort of dimensions of the lot, and the fact that dimensions is the correct word, but you can see that it has a hillside, guys. It has an incline, it has a slope to it. As you come off the road and you head eastbound, the property takes on, well, you've got some nice views up here is my point. Of course, you've got some flat cutout areas right here where you can build, or if you are the more adventurous type, you can build up further along the hillside. It should be noted, also, if we wiggle the mouse this way, you can see that building up top, of course, is going to give you some nice views of the surrounding mesas. There are quite a few of them out here, and some really pretty picturesque scenery. But just want to give you guys a sense that the land is not flat, number one. Additionally, just want to point this out. So when I was first looking at this property, considering to buy it, hello. This thing appeared to me to be a trail. I thought it was a trail. I thought it was like a second road that was cut out through the property, just some kind of thing that people had dirt biked on enough that it appeared on Google Maps. Nay, incorrect. This is in a bit of an arroyo, kind of, I guess, begins or ends up here, I don't know, and goes all the way down here before it again begins or ends, depending on where it starts and where it finishes. Point being, it crosses along all these properties, and I am not entirely certain of what the difference is between an arroyo or a ravine or whatever, but obviously this is not made by man, and probably water goes through it occasionally. Now, some of you will be turned off by this. I don't necessarily blame you. For the adventurous out there, for the people who look at this like I do, like, oh, this is cool. I'll have a free moat on the property. I could build like a little, bridge or something that I could cross to get to the roughly 75% of the property that sits east of this, and I can deal with it that way. I want to show you guys some pictures here of the land and of the subdivision. I'll get to those in a second, but the big things I want to point out here just about the arroyo. Number one, this is one of the best shots that we have of it. This gives you a sense of exactly how kind of deep, how kind of cut out this is. My photographer was able to traverse this, get to the other side without difficulty, take pictures from both sides of the property. So maybe it's not as daunting. Additionally, the drone photos down here will also give you a good sense of exactly how kind of, I don't know, deep this is, and whether or not it's a deal breaker for you as a buyer. I don't know. Maybe you want to go out there and take a look at it yourself. Be my guest. But the point is, for just interest full disclosure, showing you this in the photos. Now, with that said, I'm just going to start. Oh, by the way, here's some of these magnificent views of these nearby mesas. So I'm just going to start the gallery up top, just kind of walk you through this. This, of course, is the entrance to Box S Ranch. This is the, I don't know, welcome sign. This is about as formal as it gets out here. And then you see we got the roads here. These, of course, could be traversed by really any type of vehicle. These are the nearby power lines that I was referencing earlier, basically right across the street from the subject property. Here's more of them. And then we have some shots of the aforementioned arroyo. This is another good indicator of the I guess at the depth of this, and I feel like unless you have a human standing in the photo, you can't really get a sense of it, but it seems not too treacherous from what I've been told. Anyway, as we go through this, we see the cutout areas of the property, the flat areas of the property where it should be easy to build or park, whatever you want to build or park out there. And then later in the gallery, we're going to get into some of the more forested areas higher up on the property. These are some of them right here. Anyway, guys, I will let you explore these on your own. A couple things I do want to point out here later in the photo gallery. Number one, some of the nearby mesas, some of the nearby, I'm not entirely certain what these are called, though I do know what their historical purpose would be. Mesas, and then we got this guy. This is actually a photo we recycled from the last time our photographer was out here in Box S Ranch, but the point is that the deer do come onto the property. They are all over the place. As noted, this is on the outskirts of Cibola National Forest, so you should expect to see these guys out there. Should you purchase the land, should you elect to start living out there or building a hunting cabin or whatever, you will probably run into these guys. So maybe bring some apples so you can feed them, I guess. Anyway, and then we have more shots of the land. It should be noted, guys, we're going to have a drone video down here on this page. Probably a new one. We're going to replace this one with a different one. And then, I just noticed the price down here is wrong. That'll be changed. Anyway, video will be up at the bottom with drone video of the land, of the surrounding regions, give you an excellent sense of that. Now, I do want to direct your attention up here, guys. So the property does come with covenants and restrictions. These, however, are fairly light. I find these to be fairly reasonable. And you can come down here on the table. You can click here, and you can see all of these enumerated in 12 pages, which will probably bore you to tears to try and read. So we simplified this for you, and I made a Cliff Notes version. Now, all this writing up here may seem like something where, there must be a lot to tell us about. No, not really. To me, this is not so much an indication of how strict these criteria are. This is more so me just trying to give you a Cliff Notes version, just trying to break this down. So as we go through some of these, I won't read them all, but I'll say, residential good, commercial bad. The covenants talk about how, these lots are just to be used for residential purposes, not for commercial purposes, not for mining, things like that. Time limit to build. This is one everybody likes to ask about, 18 months. And to be clear, guys, you can buy the property, do nothing with it for 50 years. But the moment that you break ground on the property, that's when that 18-month clock starts ticking. Now, by the way, what happens at 18 months and 1 day? Does anybody come and level a fine? I don't think so, because this subdivision does not seem to have, from what I can discern, any kind of landowners association, anybody who's necessarily enforcing these rules. I'll get back to that in a second. Architectural Control Committee. The aforementioned Timberlake Ranch subdivision just south of this one has one of these. This one does not have this enumerated in the covenants. But architectural control committees are usually ones that tell you what kind of paint swatches you can use on your house. This subdivision does not have that, so that's not something you're going to have to worry about. So I always consider that a good thing. Generally, these architectural control committees are put in place to kind of keep the riffraff out and make sure nobody parks a purple school bus out of which they cook meth. They kind of make sure they have something in the covenants that can get rid of the riffraff should they show up. That's usually what they're used for, but sometimes they're ridiculous. Point is, this subdivision does not have that. Minimum square footage, 600 square feet. As long as the structure has 600 square feet and you're living out of it, that's not a problem. Anything under 600 would be, I guess, if somebody were measuring. Presumably, you have, as long as you are up to code, as long as you're abiding by New Mexico building code standards, whatever those are, you'll be fine. Whatever the case, if you're looking to build a tiny house, depending on your definition of tiny, 600 may be it, so you'd be able to do it out there. Camping, of course, a lot of our buyers like to camp on these properties. It's allowed, but for no longer than 21 days at a time. Additionally, the covenants dictate that the owner be present during that time. So there you go. Most of the rest of these are all pretty logical things. Just, rubbish, how you're disposing of waste, how you're disposing of trash, things like that. Don't leave eyesores on your property. Storage, the lots may not be used exclusively for storage. Firearms, not allowed to discharge firearms. That would suggest that hunting is not allowed within the subdivision, but obviously very close by in the Cibola National Forest it is. So you're not going to have to go too far to do those sorts of things. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that's my simplified version of the covenants, guys. As noted, if you're going to buy this property, if you're going to spend $19,000 on this, I encourage you guys just to read this over. Really, those are the major takeaways from it. But, if you want to read the more I don't know, the more dense language and explanations of these things, of course you can. So anyway, but again, a lot of this, guys, it's obvious stuff, and some of it has to do with how the structures are built, but a lot of that really has more to do with just preserving the forest, making sure that fires don't break out. So there are some notes here about what kind of roofs you can have, what kind of roof you can have on the structure, which again just really has to do with fire prevention. So it's something you'd probably be abiding by anyway. Anyway, with all that said, guys, additionally, we do want to point out to all of our potential buyers that if you're researching the property, if this looks like something that you do want to purchase and you have questions about things like getting power hooked up, Continental Divide Electric Co-op is the company that services most of this region out there. Reach out to them. Tell them you're looking to buy some land in Box S Canyon, so you've got some power lines across the street from me. Practically speaking, cost-wise, what's it going to take to get that extended out to my property? That link that we're showing you right there, of course, is going to take you to their website where you can reach out to them. They might not know what Box S Ranch is. Generally speaking, when you talk to these utilities, sometimes they'll ask you for a parcel number. Of course, that is indicated up here. If you read that often, they'll probably know what part of the county it's in and what their presence is out there. And then they can tell you, well, it's X amount for this many power poles, etc. That is, I believe, how they charge for that sort of thing. Additionally, guys, the Office of the State Engineer there in New Mexico, these are the people who are in charge of water rights, in charge of well permits. Reach out to them if you have questions about that. As far as water table depth, this, as I like to say in these videos, this is not something that we like to quote to people because it's pretty much impossible to say, oh, it's definitely XYZ, depth at this property. That being said, I find the telltale sign is if you look and you see homes nearby, like we do right here across the street, it's a pretty good indicator that drilling down, getting access to water table is not prohibitively expensive, particularly when you see this many people living out here. And I don't anticipate that all these people are millionaires, so it should be easy. I think another good clue is when you see this amount of dense vegetation on the land. By the way, guys, one thing I do want to point out here on the property, I was saying earlier that from everything we've been able to research and discover, there is no active property owners association out there who's enforcing these rules, these covenants, restrictions. My guess, based on some of the quality of the homes I see out there, is that some of the neighbors are conscious of them. They try to keep it, they try to have presentable home sites out there. They try to generally speaking, you're going to find some nice homes in the region. But additionally, I'd like to point out, you also see things like this on the map, which look to me to be eyesores with like a bunch of junk on the ground out there. If that's out there and nobody's enforcing this, it's kind of safe to assume that most of these covenants and restrictions are just on the honor system, and there's nobody out there who's really policing this sort of thing. So if there's anything that you do read in those CCRs that gives you cause for concern, maybe drive out there, you're looking at the property, maybe you can talk to some of the neighbors, just try to get a realistic sense of what the deal is out there. By the way, guys, one quick thing I do want to point out to you, I forgot to mention earlier, the Timberlake Ranch Volunteer Fire Department is down here. There it is. There we go. Timberlake Ranch Fire Department. Of course, just less than a mile away from the subject property up here, or roughly a mile away. So if anything does go pear-shaped on the land, you're going to have easy access to those guys. They'll be Johnny on the spot, I'm sure, in just a few minutes. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, with all that said, guys, if this is a property that you're looking at seriously and you would like to purchase, I'll just let you know that we closed on this through Four Corners Title Company. That means we got title insurance with it, which means we'll be providing you with a warranty deed. Purchase price on the property is $19,000, so we, of course, are going to encourage you to also close with Four Corners. I believe they are the only title company in McKinley County. But the way you get that process started is you come up here, you click the Buy Now button. It's going to take you to secure checkout. We're going to ask for $500 down, guys. This is a non-refundable earnest money deposit. Guys, please do not give us money if you do not want to buy the property. I can't believe how many people I have to say this to. $500 non-refundable earnest money deposit. This shows us that you're serious. You're going to enter a couple pieces of information here: legal name for deed, tax address, where's McKinley County going to send the yearly statement. Agree to the terms of service, click next, and on the next page we'll ask for credit or debit card information. To be clear, guys, I do not anticipate that the average person has a credit card that can charge $19,000. I do not anticipate that the average person wants to pay $19,000 over the internet. This is something we encourage you to close through a title company on. And if you're not familiar with title companies, the way that works, essentially we're adding a third party here into the mix to make sure that your money is held securely and not released to us until such a time as the property is conveyed into your name. And if you want to get a sense of how that process works, we got this handy page on our website called How It Works, Buying From Us. Click on this. It's going to take you to this page. This enumerates the two basic ways in which we close on properties. You can skip the first one, come down here, and read about type of closing recommended. Anything in this price range, $19,000, like where we're at right here, we encourage you to close through a title company. I presume you're going to be building out there at some point. Maybe that means you're going to take out a loan from a bank. They are not going to lend on a property that doesn't have title insurance. So the other benefit, guys, of closing through a title company is you'll get title insurance on the property. Whatever the case, you put down the money, we draft a contract, we sign it, you sign it, we submit it to the title company, they do the rest. Usually slowly, usually it's about a month later when they're asking you for the remainder of the funds. Usually it's about a month later when they're asking us to sign the new deed. Okay, so about 30 days pass, and then both parties are taking action. Property's being conveyed to you, money's being released to us. And for the record, guys, as I clear my throat, if you want to see what one of our contracts looks like, if you're hesitant to put down $500 until you know what you're going to be asked to sign, we got a link right here. Click it. It's going to show you a generic version of one of our standard contracts. This is pretty easy. This is pretty self-explanatory. It's one page for signatures. You got a cousin who's a lawyer. You want him to look at this. Go nuts, be my guest. But it is pretty self-explanatory. Okay, guys, it outlines the terms, none of which are unreasonable. So with all that said, guys, if you are interested in purchasing the property, just click the Buy Now button and begin that process. If you have any questions, give us a call, 702-919-7170. We're always here to answer them. Well, we're here most of the time to answer them when we're not running to banks and post offices. Shoot us an email, support@hemingwayland.com, or leave a comment here on the YouTube, and we will get back to you. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody, and we will see you in the next video.